The U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is on the third and final day of talks with top Chinese military officials in an effort to reduce tensions between the two countries. On Wednesday, Mr. Sullivan met with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to set up a call between Presidents Joe Biden and Xi Jinping. The White House said that both sides welcomed ongoing efforts to maintain open lines of communication, including planning for a lead-level call in the coming weeks. Well, on China's influence in the Indo-Pacific region, the White House said that Mr. Sullivan underscored the importance of maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Well, our China correspondent Laura Beer gave me the latest from Beijing Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. The two have met on 4 other occasions. This is the 5th time, and they do seem able to talk for very long time. We're into our 3rd day, so we're expecting an update within the next couple of hours. The last update we did get did mention some progress. First of all, you've just mentioned that there will be a call between President Biden and President Xi in the coming weeks. Now, what we are wondering is whether or not that will lay the groundwork for a final meeting between the two presidents before President Biden leaves office. Is this unfinished business for the White House? And second, the other kind of progress that seems to have been made is that Jake Sullivan has met for the first time since 2016 for any U.S. national security advisor. He's met a top Chinese general, and they've had discussions about military-to-military communication that shows just how seriously both sides are taking this, and that is because there are a number of flashpoints throughout the world, including, as you mentioned, the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea. And in those areas the Chinese and the Americans come very, very close together. What both sides fear is a miscommunication, a miscalculation that could lead to conflict, and that's what this is about. This is about stopping this competition of the 21st century turning into any kind of conflict. What about the other flashpoints, not least the Middle Eastern Ukraine? Well, that are a number of talking points that they need to get to. Ukraine is a big issue because over the last year what we have seen is a number of its officials coming to Beijing, warning China that they must stop helping any Russian firms with components that they could use in their war in Ukraine. Just a few months ago we had the Secretary of State, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken here with a warning saying that they will follow through with sanctions if China does not act. That has happened in a number of companies. Chinese companies have been hit with the sanctions. China is furious about this. China says that it is trying to push for peace in Ukraine. When it comes to the Middle East, both have various influences in the Middle East, and I think they are both concerned about the Gaza war spiraling out of control, so that is something that they can collaborate on. We have heard also that they're collaborating on issues in the Korean Peninsula, issues on the war in Myanmar, so there are areas where the two can come together. They're also managing to kind of talk about the distribution of fentanyl. China has been accused in the past of supplying chemicals which is used to make fentanyl, which is an opioid, creating an opioid crisis throughout the U.S. So there are ways certainly where they are collaborating on that to curb the supplies of chemicals that are reaching the U.S. So although this is a difficult relationship and they are trying to manage their differences, there are areas where they are managing to move some way forward. Well, thanks to Laura Beer. They're on that US-China meeting. Let's turn to the US itself, because the FBI says it hasn't yet found a clear motive for the attempted assassination of Donald Trump last month. It said that the gunman Thomas Crooks had searched extensively online for events that involved both the former president and Joe Biden before settling on the Trump rally in Pennsylvania. Officers said that the gunman's online activity showed a mixture of ideologies and there was no evidence of any conspirators. Our correspondent John Sudworth gave some background to this latest FBI briefing. Well, the FBI has come in for intense criticism, first and foremost of course for its failure to protect the former president on the day of the shooting, but more recently over its handling of the investigation and the evidence. And this briefing was in part An attempt by the FBI to push back on some of those more recent criticisms, saying that the protocols of evidence have been followed and that it is doing all it can to get to the bottom of the motives for the attack. What's interesting though is that despite those hundreds of hours of video footage they have trolled through, despite hundreds of interviews carried out, despite the intense scrutiny on the social media use and the internet, footprint of Thomas Cookes the gunman, they are no clearer to establishing a motive. He remains something of an enigma. They say that his social media use shows a mixture of views, no real clues there as to motive, and that although there was intensive planning leading up to the event, the evidence shows that Thomas Cookes was searching both a Republican and Democrat events. John Sudworth there with the latest on the FBI briefing. For more updates visit channel and don't forget to subscribe and like, also turn on the bell icon.